Hello and welcome to another video on the channel. Today we have our week 2 recap video. What we're going to do is go through our week 2 preview video and see exactly how good, or in most cases how bad, we ended up being. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the spreadsheet here so that you guys can see exactly what we're looking at. So this is our spreadsheet for what happened in week number 2. We have our correct picks up top here. We made 50 correct picks. Our incorrect picks are in red there, 29 of those. Total 79 picks. And we hit 63.29% overall for the week. Not a half bad week. We did have a few kind of asterisk games that I said might have too little of data to actually make a good prediction on. Those two, if you remember, were the LAFC Seattle game, which is right here. So they're highlighted in a slightly different color. We said that Seattle had been on a terrific run through the end of their MLS Cup, and we didn't really expect that form to continue. So while the numbers said to fade LAFC, we weren't necessarily on that train, but they still count as picks, so we put them in here anyway. And it did end up working out that most of the LAFC players did outperform their averages. So just a quick definition here of what I'm considering a correct pick and an incorrect pick. I guess that would be helpful. A correct pick is anything where so there's actually two different definitions, I guess. A correct pick on a good matchup means the player scored higher than their last 15 average. So an incorrect pick would mean the player scored lower than their last 15 average. That's if we said they had a good matchup and we expected them to perform well. If we expected them to perform poorly, like on this side, then a win or a correct pick would be if they performed lower than what their 15-week average was. And if they performed higher than a 15-week average, that was going to be considered a loss. So in total, we ended up 63.29% on those. So anyway, moving back to LAFC. So most of these guys did actually outperform their last 15 averages. And you can actually see Atuesta had one of the nicest weeks of anybody. I think he finished like 7th or 8th in the league. Hit a beautiful free kick goal underneath the wall after the goalkeeper told his defender not to lie down on the wall, which was kind of interesting. The other kind of asterisk games that I told you about was the Austin game, brand new franchise. They only had one game of data, and it happened to be on the road against one of the best teams in the league. So I said potentially this one might be a little bit dicey to try to follow the evidence on this one as well. And it was kind of up in the air. It was a 50-50 game as far as who they play, Colorado? Yeah, Colorado. It was a 50-50 game for the Colorado players. Alex Ring is a Austin player. He brought it just below 50-50 for the entire game. But if we take out those two asterisk games, we actually did even better. We ended up with a 69.23% total, 45 correct out of 65 total. So a very, really well done, actually, better than I was expecting to do, if we're being completely honest. Some of these games we completely nailed, and some of them we were very far off on. Did say to start all your NYCFC guys against Cincinnati, and that seemed to work out very well. 5-0 romp over Cincinnati for NYC. All 5 goals scored off of set pieces as well, which is not something that you see very often. One note on that, Cincinnati's goalkeeper did get scratched in the pregame with an injury, so they were playing the backup goalkeeper, and he was abysmal. So as long as the backup goalkeeper continues to play, you want to start anybody who's playing against Seattle, or I'm sorry, Cincinnati, moving forward. And then we did say to fade Cincinnati's defense, which worked out pretty well. The one exception here, Joe Jow, sorry, he has such a low bar for his last 15 that he really didn't have a very good week. I think he had like 38, but it's still above his bar for the last 15. So he did technically end up as an incorrect pick. We nailed Dallas, so you can see we got all 5 Dallas players correct there. Other games, we nailed this Nashville game. We only missed one of the Nashville boys. We said to start a bunch of the Nashville defenders because we did not believe in the attack for. Who did they play? Montreal. Then we had Toronto. We nailed that one. I think Schaufelberg may have come off the bench, so I think that might be why he didn't hit his average, but everybody else seemed to do fairly well. We completely missed on the New England Revolution attack. It was a kind of a weird game where both teams knew that the other team wanted to take a lot of chances, so they both kind of sat back and didn't let the other team take chances, which in turn just made it a very boring, very there weren't any chances basically. The best chance of the game was an own goal by DC United that was completely unforced, and really there was no reason to even attempt to clear that ball back to his own net. And the other side, they did exactly the same thing, except Farrell ended up hitting his own post instead of going into the back of the net. So it could have easily been a 1-1 draw with two own goals, which is the definition of a boring game. But in the end, it ends up a 1-0 New England Revolution win. We did say to fade a few of the DC United players, which ended up working well. Sorga was another one that just barely hit his bar, and he didn't have a high bar to begin with. Moving on. Lastly, I think we got this New York Red Bulls LA Galaxy game correct as well. Pretty happy with that. Got all three there. Obviously, Chicharito, that takes us to the next part, which is the top players from week 2. Chicharito destroyed New York Red Bulls. 3 goals, nailed his hat trick. Mistake by Aaron Long gave him the final goal there. 98.6. Very good showing for Chicharito. He's off and running this year. 5 goals in 2 games. I think he only scored twice all of last year. So he's already doubled that for this season. Next up, we have Jorge Figal from Miami, a defender. And if you'll notice, Figal is in our fade column. So we told you to sit him, and he ended up with a 92.3, finished second overall in the league. So don't ever listen to me. That's the moral of that story. Jesus Medina of NYCFC was the best of the bunch when it came to the 5-0 romp over Cincinnati. He ended up with a 90.4. Ziki Barco scored a golazo for Atlanta. That was a really nice goal. That one's up for goal of the week, 89.9. And then Christian Gutierrez from the Whitecaps. Christian Gutierrez is an interesting case. Defender, young guy, only 24 years old, and he's put together back-to-back outstanding weeks. I think he had a 96 last week, 89.7 this week. If he can keep this up all season, he's going to be an absolute monster. Didn't really show this form any of the last season, so definitely one to go and keep an eye on with Christian Gutierrez of the Whitecaps. So that is going to be it for this video. I appreciate you guys watching. If you have any comments or constructive criticism, anything I can do to make the video more entertaining or more informative or really more beneficial in any way, please feel free to reach out to me, MLS Card Guy, on Twitter, Instagram, or on Discord. Other than that, that's going to be the video for today. We'll keep it nice and short and sweet for you guys. Until the next time, Vamos United.